Hey, Billy the Bake here. Thanks for joining me. We're just leaving a fuel stop, heading towards Palestine, Texas. And wanted to talk a little bit today about mistakes made and lessons learned. But first, I guess, let me introduce myself if you are new to the channel. My name is William, and I've been skating this line in recovery since 1988. Now, this doesn't make me any better, stronger, faster, smarter, and definitely not any prettier than anybody else. But what it does mean is I've had enough time sitting in the rooms, drinking substandard coffee, and listening to what works and what doesn't from other people, and finding out in my own life that I've got a pretty good stack of mistakes made and lessons learned. And with that, let's get into today's topic, which is just that: mistakes made and lessons learned. I talked about one of those earlier, and that was changing seats on the Titanic. Let's talk today about make the program your lover and don't chip you on it. And you'll have to forgive me if I don't stare at the camera, because I am driving a truck, and I think we need me looking at the road more than anything else. So if I'm short of eye contact, don't take it hard, all right? Anyhow, mistakes made, lessons learned, don't chip you. That's a phrase I heard real early on and stuck with me. Bottom line is, I came in and I honestly didn't really see any detriment to drinking when I came in. I did with other things. Other party favors were kicking me in the cubes, and it was pretty evident. But, you know, alcohol consumption didn't play on my mind. And I had gotten some trouble with some kid crap around it as a kid. And I suspect it was largely just stupid kid shit, you know, because I was one of these guys. Map is yapping at me. Sorry about that. Anyhow, I was one of these guys who could be the designated driver. When the lads would go out, I'd drive. I could have one drink, 2 drinks, no drinks. Didn't matter. If I had one, may or may not have another. Didn't matter. If I wasn't drinking, I didn't think about drinking. During the day, I didn't think about, am I going to go get some beer tonight? Are we going to go out and do some? Nah. If it came up, it came up. If it didn't, it didn't. I didn't care about it. Until I quit everything else. And I went over that in a previous episode. But if you hadn't seen it, there's the backstory. Anyhow, I found myself introduced to a 12-step fellowship of people centered around recovery for marijuana. Yeah, there is such a thing. Anyhow, these people were squared away. They were thinking right. And they told me, Billy, this is a program of complete abstinence. Luckily, we didn't count nicotine and we didn't count caffeine. Thank all gods, because those are safety devices in the trucking industry. Oh, let this guy go. That truck's being bouncy here. The wiring gets wet and she likes to lurch and buck when you try and move slow. Thank you, Freightliner. Anyway, with nicotine and caffeine notwithstanding, this is an program of utter abstinence. Well, I would argue. Used to love to argue. I got stuck in a prep school for a year. And the only, and I mean only, enjoyable thing, other than just seeing little pink hearts dance in my field of vision in Spanish class, because my teacher, she was adorable. She was such a sweetheart. You're a very attractive lady and an absolute sweetheart. She really was. But apart from that, the only enjoyable thing about that whole damn experience of that year of school was debate class. And man, I loved to try and do some verbal jujitsu and armbar you with your own damn logic and have you agreeing that left is right, right is wrong, down is up, green is red. It made me feel smart and clever. So, these people would say that, hey, this is a program of abstinence. We don't chip you with other stuff. And I would engage in wordy and long and verbose arguments as to why it wasn't a problem in my life and I wasn't suffering any ill consequences and I was perfectly able to regulate my alcohol consumption. I don't think I convinced anybody but me. I hope I didn't convince anybody but me. Made an ass of myself is what I'm trying to get at, right? Okay, come on. Let's go, bouncy truck. Thank you. So, here I am making a jackass of myself for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, whatever. I quit drinking. Herein is the mistake made and the lesson learned. I didn't change the birthday. See, my date that I'd been marking down from all the party favors and the marching powders and the devil's lettuce and all of that was May 27th in 1988. And I had made such a pain in the wedding tackle of myself so loudly, so often, that I just couldn't bear to mark a different date now. Part of it, I think, may have been that I didn't want to give up clean time, claiming clean time. Well, I have whatever time I have. Whatever truly is what truly is, and it doesn't matter what I write on a piece of paper. I can write, July 17th, 1847. It doesn't make it a fucking fact. No. But I didn't want to surrender whatever credibility or gravitas or what have you that I seem to think might come from claiming this date versus that. But I think the larger part of it is, if I said someone else was right and I had argued, that pretty much meant that I was wrong. That was a tough thing for me to swallow, that I was wrong. Well, at some point, this wasn't sitting well internally. Nobody was saying anything. I just very quietly stopped arguing about being able to drink in a controlled social fashion, much probably to the pleasure of everybody around, that at least there was one subject upon which I was not blathering on about spewing something that's obviously bullshitterish. Yeah. So, I just thought I'd fly under the radar, but it didn't sit well with me. It was just internally, I didn't feel right with it, So then I decided, well, I got to write down a different date, and let's say end of May, and went far, so many days. It'd be in June. What day was it? And I don't know. So, for decades now, I've been writing June 1988. People have asked me, why don't you just pick a date? And I'm tempted because it would give people a day that they can say my birthday is. The truth is that I don't know. The truth is I made up a story and stuck with it. The story I made up with is that, well, it's okay if I put this birthday down because this was the one I really had the worst problem with. That one I had another problem with, but I didn't have a problem with alcohol, so that really doesn't matter. Well, the fact that I had to quit drinking alcohol, yeah, that means that's really my date. When you quit the last one is when you start sobriety. That's what I was told. Kind of a side note. People I respected, they would reference things in the big book like the story Dr. Alcoholic Addict. Now it's been renamed for the 4th edition. Acceptance is the key. I've always kind of wondered if that's because there were people who were offended by the word addict in the title of the story. Maybe they needed a little acceptance. I don't know, man. I'm just pondering on that one, right? But it's the story, I think the guy's named Dr. Paul, and he's a surgeon who was a rummy, and then he turned to drugs to try and control things, and was doing medicine smacked out. He had a codependent wife, Max, who was also his assistant nurse. Good story. It's often referred to in the realms. It's a real crowd pleaser. Sorry. Speech impediment strikes again. But people would reference that. Now, that's doesn't come from the first 164 pages of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and does not say that you have to quit anything other than drinking. In fact, it says you don't even have to quit drinking, you have to have an honest desire to quit drinking, to claim membership. And they don't address the issue of any side substances. But obviously, the folks who are in charge of publishing that book in editions 3 and 4 thought highly enough of this story, which goes into great detail about how this guy was saying that, hey, at least for him, no chip in with side substances. They obviously thought highly enough of the concept in his story that they included it in the literature. So it was pointed to me, I should probably take that to heart. With all that being said, if you're in the rooms and you're doing one thing and not another, and you feel it's not a problem, deep in your heart, you really don't feel it's a problem, I'm not trying to change your mind, okay? To be frank about it, I really don't care. I'm kind of interested in myself, my world, my own jam, whatever situation I got going on. The fact that I'm only able to do 60-something miles an hour in this truck, and it's a 70 zone, and I want several more miles an hour to play with. That's a hell of a lot more interesting to me than if you are taking this and not that. You know what? I vape 24 milligram. Sorry about that. Lane departure warning. There's 24 milligram vape juice I do nicotine, I do caffeine. I don't worry about that, okay? If you are on the marijuana maintenance program and you're sober off alcohol and that works for you, and you don't internally feel that maybe there's something with that, hey, cool. More power to you. I'm not trying to change your mind. The whole reason I put this out here is it was a mistake for me, because I know for me that playing the one substance, not the other thing. And I'm going to tell you, the nicotine, I can't say it's not an issue. But I knew I had to quit drinking, so I quit drinking, and then I didn't change my birthday, and I felt conflicted about it. That feeling of inner conflict means that I didn't feel that I didn't feel that what I was doing was really, really right on. It wasn't 5 over 5. If you are in that position, then I'm hoping to influence you to the degree that you might look at somebody who has the benefit of hindsight on the situation and says he wishes that he'd changed his birthday immediately. And that's as far as I'm going to try and influence him. As far as anything else goes, man, I'm driving in my own lane here. I'm not worried about your lane. It's honestly not my business. It's not my circus. It's not my monkey ma'am. And I really don't need to have an opinion. You do you. You do you. But like I say, if you're conflicted about what you're doing, then you might listen to the story and just have cause to think that, here's a guy who did what I did, and this is how he's saying it worked for him over the long haul. So with that, mistakes made, lessons learned, these stories, they're not necessarily going to make me look good and sound good. I get that. I realize that. You know what? I'm not worried about that. Looking good and sounding good in front, looking good and sounding good plus $7 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, man. Is what it is. And honestly, eyes that can see will see through. I've tried to look good and been called out by my friends who, tried to influence me towards a more productive path. And thank God they did. So with that, if this was interesting to you, great. If you have a comment about anything, any kind of cogent or helpful comment, please feel free to leave it below. With that, I hope wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you're safe, well, and happy. Until next time, see you out on the road.